This tutorial will demonstrate how to properly void a dispensing transaction in the MDScripts software. There are many scenarios in which it may become necessary for you to void a dispensing transaction. For example, you could get all the way through the dispensing transaction when billing insurance, only to find out that the patient's insurance doesn't cover the medication. Or the patient may simply change their mind about paying for a medication out of pocket and prefer to pick it up at a pharmacy of their choosing. Whatever the scenario may be, the transaction will need to be voided so that their electronic patient file is always accurate. To void a transaction, hover over the Orders tab and select View Orders. This section displays the dispensing history for your site. To locate the transaction to void, you can use the various search and filter options here. You can search by date range, the physician who prescribed the medication to be dispensed, the patient name, or the RX number. Once you have located the transaction, you can select it by clicking the RX number. In the center of the Dispense Checkout screen, locate the Post-Order Processing section. This section will allow you to edit select fields of the dispensing transaction after it has been completed in order to correct any errors that may have occurred. This is also where you can void the entire transaction or specific medications in the transaction. For example, let's say the patient received both the amoxicillin and the clomiphene, but came back several days later to return just the amoxicillin due to a negative side effect. In this scenario, you would only want to void the amoxicillin because the patient is going to keep the clomiphene. If the patient originally paid for the medications with cash and you are issuing a refund to the patient, make sure to enter a negative amount in the payment section to indicate that money was returned. You must do this prior to voiding the medication. If you don't, the itemized option will not display the medication that was voided, so you will not be able to issue a credit directly against the medication. If you voided all medications in the transaction, the payment option will not be visible at all, so you won't be able to enter any credit information. Click Void Order/Items. If you do not see this option, your user account may not have been given sufficient rights to void dispensing transactions. These user settings are usually determined and set by a manager or the physician as a security measure. Only place a check mark next to the medications you want to void. If you are voiding the entire transaction, you would leave all medications checked. If a prescription for this medication was also written in the software, you can opt to void the prescription as well. In some cases, you may wish to place the voided medication back into your inventory to be dispensed to someone else. For example, if amoxicillin was selected during the transaction, but azithromycin is what should have been selected, you can void the amoxicillin and keep the Inventory Return checkbox checked, so the bottle is returned to your on-hand inventory. Anytime you void a transaction, you will need to provide a reason for the void. It is recommended that you stick to standardized reasons to help better categorize when and why medications are voided. Or you can simply opt to enter custom responses each time. When you are satisfied with your selections, click the Void Selected Items button to complete the void. All voided items are indicated with a line through the RX number to show that they have successfully been voided. You will also be able to determine which user voided the transaction and review the reason it was voided in the transaction history log here. Repeat these same steps for any additional voiding that needs to be completed.